Hello, everyone. Good evening and welcome to Business Live. Coming up, pharmaceutical industry urged to use COVID-19 to relaunch their business strategies. Ghana likely to raise $1.3 billion cocoa syndicated loan as investors withdraw. Also coming up, as the hospitality sector bounces back, we assess the impact of COVID-19 on the travel and tour business and how they are re-strategizing for a comeback. Details plus more coming up after the break. Do stay tuned. We begin tonight from the Joy Business Thought Leadership Forum, where country manager of Raj Pharmaceutical, Philip Addison, has urged industries in the healthcare sector to see COVID-19 as an opportunity to relaunch their operations. According to him, this could be their breakthrough despite the heavy challenges presented by the virus. Dr. Anderson was speaking at the Joy Business Thought Leadership Forum on workplace safety during COVID-19. We have more in the following report.
The Joy Business and Crystal Health Center event focused on workplace safety in the midst of the coronavirus pandemic. In dealing with the impact of the virus, industry experts proposed promulgation of a workplace safety policy to guide corporate institutions.
The ministry has supported the Ministry of Employment and Labor Relations, and then all the other labor relations organizations within the country to come up with kind of like a workplace guidelines as far as COVID-19 is concerned. And I think a portion of this is what Dr. Anderson touched on as far as how staff or the employees, at the workplace are supposed to be managed to play their role in this COVID-19 era.
For a business, what do you really need to do to keep your place safe? You've got to be able to plan. You've got to be able to prepare. You've got to be able to respond. So I leave all of us with these three key principles. We plan, we prepare, and then we respond. So there's no one size fits all.
I explained that we both have roles to play as employers and then employees. Now, what do employers have to do, employers and managers? The first thing is that we need to establish infection control strategies based on thorough assessment of our employees and the possible exposure based on the work they do. So there is the need for every employer and actually every workforce to take a quick look at their workplace and see how could they be exposed.
Country manager for Raj Pharmaceutical, Dr. Philip Anderson, believes the pandemic has presented an opportunity for industries to relaunch their market strategies.
A lot of things about COVID and the risk, but then this is also an opportunity for businesses to reintroduce themselves, to relaunch, because in every crisis there are opportunities. This is the time when they talk about pivoting and doing something else, which could actually be your breakthrough as a business. Now, you need to carefully look at what is going on, plan appropriately, and take the maximum benefit out of everything that is happening. There's this quote by John F. Kennedy, which says that when crisis is written in Chinese, it is two characters. One is risk, the other is opportunity. So wherever there are these risks, there are business opportunities, and people will need to look at it carefully and take advantage of it.
The one-day event also educated institutions on case management during a question and answer session.
International banks that were supposed to finance the upcoming $1.3 billion cocoa loan syndication for 2020-2021 crop season have backed out of the process. These lenders have cited the uncertainty amid the coronavirus as a reason for their exemption from the process. Charles Aite has the rest of the story.
The decision by international lenders is in sharp contrast to the confident assurance by Chief Executive of Cocoa Board, Aboagye-Wiafe, that not even the coronavirus will affect the syndication loan. What this means is that Cocoa Board is expected to pay up for the club loan, reversing the downward trend in pricing it has enjoyed in previous years. Earlier, Head of Corporate Affairs at Cocoa Board, Aboagye-Wiafe, disclosed to Joy Business that a peg of $1.3 billion for the syndication loan will remain as it is. Nothing will change, he said.
Obviously, this is the time we would expect that we have gone to do our roadshow, but because of COVID, like the president said, we are not in normal times. So the normal way of doing things has changed a little bit, but we are on course, and our expectation is that we will be able to raise the money needed for our operations next year. So yes, we are on course. The figure that was initially pegged has not changed. We are still working with the same figure. Of course, if it happens that based on our projections something would change, we shall communicate it. But as I speak to you today, that has not changed.
The coronavirus pandemic has had a dark turn on global cocoa value chains. Despite the obvious challenges, Ghana's cocoa regulator still insists days are bright for cocoa farmers.
The buyers, have closed their windows, so we are not doing buying. The price of cocoa has tumbled. It was going up. It was around $2,400, $2,500. Now it's gone down below $2,000. And that alone tells you immediately it brings to Ghana a deficit of almost about $1 billion. That alone. So if this thing should continue, even going to pay our farmers is going to be difficult because we are unable to syndicate right now.
Chief Executive of Cocoa Board, Aboagye-Wiafe, who earlier revealed in an interview with Joy Business that the coronavirus had caused Ghana's cocoa sector a loss of $1 billion, backtracked, explaining a risk assessment committee had rather been established to study price trends and propose strategies for a rebound.
We are making all efforts to get the money to pay our farmers. We've already set up a committee to look at the risk. They are doing what you call risk assessment of the whole situation, and we are being guided by the recommendations of this committee to ensure that our farmers are paid and their cocoa is bought.
Joy Business gathers that the next plan will be for the loan to be raised by a group of at least 13 banks, providing ticket sizes of approximately $75 million, although the actual size hasn't yet been decided.
Central Bank has begun engaging some savings and loans companies over the disbursement of liquidity support for the sector. The regulator at its last Monetary Policy Committee meeting announced it has instituted a financial package for the sector. However, disbursement is yet to begin months after the announcement, resulting in fears that the sector could be hit by some liquidity challenges. Aboagye-Wiafe is the Executive Secretary of the association.
For the disbursements, we think that is to a larger extent dependent on the central bank. And so we can only request from the central bank and encourage them to speed up the process and also continue to engage the people and continue to show the commitment that we have seen. So it is our expectation that it will come sooner than later. Because the more it drags, the more those institutions who have a liquidity challenge will be suffering the more.
But some would think that, I remember when the Bank of Ghana announced this, some would argue that it has taken quite a while. Has it got to do with your members not meeting the requirements in assessing this facility, or the regulators still want to do a lot of prudence, a lot of work before these disbursements are done, one would say?
I don't think it's from our members, and I think majority of it has to do with the central bank in-house processes and coming up with the required roadmap and the requirements. And so, because as I said, it was only just last Friday that some of our members were invited by the central bank. And so all this while they had submitted the application. And so if it took some time, then I believe that central bank was doing something in-house, which I am believing that the central bank will speed up the process of the appraisal and the process of the disbursement to support these institutions.
Let's come to the liquidity situation of the industry and your members. There was a recent Bank of Ghana report that talked about the fact that, it looks like your sector has taken quite a hit as a result of this. What is the situation right now as you speak in terms of the liquidity situation of your members at a time when there is COVID and the argument is that everybody is withdrawing from these institutions? What is the situation right now in terms of among your members when it comes to your liquidity position?
I'm very happy you asked this issue, and the central bank actually mentioned that, okay, the COVID situation has hit the SDI sector more than the commercial banks. This is actually to buttress the point that we have always been saying. What is it? That it is our members, the SNLs, the microfinance institutions, who actually support the SMEs in Ghana. The people who live from hand to mouth, it is our members who serve them. And again, if you look at the balance sheet of the commercial banks, the balance sheet of commercial banks, maximum 40% goes into loan, the rest into investments and other things. But if you come to the SDI, the majority of our balance sheet is in loans. The average in our industry is around 60% is in loans. Some of the institutions, every deposit they mobilize their shareholder funds and everything, as high as 90% is in loans.
Now, let me ask you this question. How often do you love to travel for sightseeing and also to enjoy some new environments? Well, we've talked about the impact of COVID-19 on all sectors of the economy, ranging from the stock market, the tumbling oil and gas sector, to the agri sector and tourism as large. One aspect of the tourism sector that we have lost over is the travel and tour. How badly have they been hit by COVID-19 pandemic amid closure of airports and the travel bans? Let's engage Adansi Travel and Tour for more as they plan to bounce back. Sewa Boateng-Bene, sales manager of Adansi Travel Limited. Thanks so much for your time this evening, ma'am. Tough time for businesses in the tourism and then hospitality sector indeed. Sewa, tell us how your sector has been affected by this pandemic.
Right. I would like to your viewers and also our condolences to those who've lost loved ones and wish a speedy recovery to those who are sick. We have all been affected badly by this pandemic. I mean, before COVID-19 got into the system, we had planned for a whole year's trip. We had local trips and we had international trips from January through to December 2020. We had to cancel all of these trips. We also have canceled incoming tours. We had students coming in from Indiana University, and they had to cancel. And that was a huge amount of money they were bringing into our economy, about $100,000 and
That's
all of that. Apart from that, it's also our staff.
That's quite a lot. Did you have to make some refund?
Well, yes, we had to refund the deposit they made for the trip. I mean, they were coming to stay in hotels, they were coming to use rent buses, they were coming to eat in our local restaurants. So it's not just us. A lot of the industry, the hospitality industry, would have benefited from that incoming trip to Ghana.
Yes, go ahead, please.
As staff, we had to cut down on salaries. There is 19 of us, and we had to cut up to about 55% of salaries.
Wow. I mean, for business, I want to have some volumes. I want to know how much you have to refund. And if you want to quantify this, how much would you say you've lost during the period?
Oh, well, the good news is that we have had existing clients. We have over 2,000 existing clients, some of which had booked tours with us, and they're waiting to travel when it is safe to do so. Yes, we have had a few refunds that we needed to do. I mean, that is going into tens of thousands of dollars that we had to refund on tours. But in general, most of our clients are waiting to travel when it's safe.
Well, the good news is that gradually we are beginning to open up. Some countries are opening up gradually, and your outfit has started soliciting for public interest in what you describe as post-COVID tour. Sounds really good. And what's the feedback you're getting on the ground?
Well, in fact, this has been inspired by a survey we did a few weeks ago. We asked clients how soon they wanted to travel. And the feedback, 46% of them said that within 6 months, if it is safe, they are ready to travel. 40% said that between 6 and 12 months, they will travel. 14% of them said that they will travel late 2021. And as I said earlier, over 2,000 of our clients, people that had already traveled with us, also want to travel when it is safe. We are aware that most countries are relaxing the restrictions on the COVID lockdowns. Dubai is opening up on the 7th to tourists. They have sent out guidelines on how to keep the tourists safe. And so we are monitoring all this around the world, including in Ghana here when it's safe and the airports are open, so that we can bring in people and also send people outside. And that is what inspired us to bring out our post-COVID travel. And also, you know that most businesses have been affected. Most of our clients have been affected. And so the post-COVID travel is also inspired people to have something to look forward to and pay in bits, so they don't have to pay a big chunk of money to go on holiday post-COVID.
But so you agree with me that as we speak now, you and I don't know when the borders will be open. And so this post-COVID tour that you want to do, between when and when are you looking at? Or you've gotten some hints that I have not aware that the borders will be open soon?
See me in secret.
Oh, definitely. But moving away from that, any new strategy you're using to get more people interested, especially when you know that?
Well, like I said earlier,
Go ahead, please.
Sorry. Yeah, our decision is based on client feedback. And what we are doing right now is not to travel immediately. As I said, most clients are willing to travel 6 months till a year. So we are giving them the opportunity to plan. You know, planning helps you to look for, it gives you something to live for. We want to inspire our clients to keep working hard and look forward to the fact that once the borders are open, they will be able to go and unwind, learn new cultures, meet different people, and relax. So our post-COVID deal is not based on a specific date, but it's to allow clients to pay an installment and to travel when it is safe and the borders are open.
Finally, before I let go of you, what are some of the destinations we should be looking forward to?
Well, at the moment, as I said, our number one top outbound means leaving Ghana, outbound destination is Dubai. We're also monitoring locally, Zena Lodge, Golden Tulip is opened, there's Western region. So locally, there is the Dodi Cruise. So we're waiting and all that locally as well. We're also looking at Singapore and UK. So these are the 3 destinations, including Ghana, that we want to plan ahead and let our clients enjoy themselves for all the stress we've been through in 2020.
Sarah, thanks so much. Sounds so exciting. I'm looking forward to getting on board, and I want to travel after COVID. Thank you for your time this evening on Business Live. And you're still watching Business Live. My name is Sandra Isinamapenu. I'm doing this from home. We'll be back after this break. back to Business Live. The National Board for Small-Scale Industries has assured that it will soon begin disbursement of government stimulus package despite initial challenges. According to the board, the delay was due to some technical challenges encountered with the registration process. The board is giving this assurance after extending the deadline for application by 6 days. Kosi Yankai is Executive Director of the National Board for Small-Scale Industries.
I mentioned that we were ready, and I think that over the past few weeks, we have been saying that we're working towards it. And yes, we have been working towards it. As I mentioned, as we were about to download, to move on to it, we realized some of these fraudulent activities that had to be rectified to avoid a backlash from that situation. And so that is what caused the delay and the backlog. With regards to disbursements, yes, as soon as possible. And all this process, as I mentioned, in terms of rectifying, in terms of ensuring that we have the right details of people. Because the situation we don't want is the backlash of, yes, we've received the information, we haven't verified Momo numbers, we release the Momo, and you call and say it was sent to the wrong person. And so as much as possible, there's actually a lot more checks than we had assumed in terms of the work because there were so many wrong Momo numbers. The other challenge was people were in a rush to complete the application forms and put a lot of numbers. So when we moved it on to take a look at it, we realized that the numbers did not correspond with some of the names we had in the system. And that would have also caused another backlash if we had rushed through the process to do what it is that we were doing. As much as possible as well, we actually also waited to the last few weeks because as much as possible, we wanted to see as many more people who wanted to apply to come so there would be a fair process so we could see as much and then be able to make and take an informed decision based on the numbers. Assuming we had gone in the first week and given everybody and realized that there were a lot more or better applications that could come at the end of it. So to be more fair in the process, we had to wait a bit more to do that. As soon as possible, and I can guarantee that, the first leg of the disbursements, and in view of making sure that the right processes are put in place and to ensure that it gets to the right people, we're looking at a two-step system where the ADUM loans, which is the micro loans, would immediately start being transferred and sorted to the beneficiaries. Then from there, in terms of the larger loans that take a lot more, or a bit more assessment, we shall make those assessments as much as possible.
Now, a tale of no free lunch. So from today, you will no longer enjoy zero charges on your Momo and electronic transactions. This is because government's waiver on transactions has expired on June 20. JoyNews has the details in the following report.
This should mean that from this morning, if you are moving funds from your mobile money to another network, all the necessary charges will be applied. Also, businesses and individuals that use the GIFTS Instant Pay and the ACH Direct Credit would also be paying the required charges. These waivers were introduced in March this year as part of efforts to reduce the burden on businesses as a result of the COVID-19. It was also aimed at encouraging the use of more electronic platforms in the country. For now, we are not sure about how this could negatively impact on individuals and businesses in terms of the cost of using these platforms and whether it could also affect it going forward. For instance, when the Ghana Interbank Payment and Settlement Systems earlier moved to end this service, this didn't go down well with users of mobile money interoperability.
I think introducing charges will be a deterrent because around this time, people are not even making more income.
That the government took it off, I think it's helping. That is helping. So I think reintroducing it won't help.
Because sometimes the money you're having is not even enough for you to get some certainty. So I think they should hold on for a little while. Then we see how the economy goes. When we are stable with it, then you can bring back data.
But another question that will be lingering on the minds of consumers is that, will this also bring an end to other services the commercial bank had to waive in line with this move by the Ghana Interbank Payment and Settlement Systems? It would also be interesting to gauge the use of this platform when we resume the charges and how the consumers would also respond. Others have also argued that since we're still not out of this COVID-19 issues, it might not be fair to actually resume the charges on all these platforms and banking services.
And that's our program for tonight. You can log on to myjoyonline.com/business for more business news updates. I'm back at 7 on the Primetime News, JoyNews Prime, for more business news. Thanks so much for allowing me into your homes from my home. My name is Sandra Esinama. Thanks so much for watching. Have a great evening.